Welcome to the Sedona Soul Sisters show, down-to-earth discussions on metaphysics, spirituality, paranormal, and healing topics. The Sedona Soul Sisters are Rosalind Reynolds, Carrie Ann Russell, and myself, Ivory Lanou. We have offices in Sedona where we see clients from all over the world. Today's topic is high-level councils and collectives. I'm so glad that you could join us today. If you have questions live during the show and you're on camera, you can just raise your hand and we'll unmute you so you can ask your question. We'll answer it live, or you can also ask it in the chat room. I've opened the chat room and we'll answer it there as well. It's your choice. If you're watching this later, as most people do on YouTube channel, you can email us your questions at ivory@sedonasoulsisters.com, and we'll be glad to answer it at any time. So this is a topic it came up, we really didn't plan. We actually reshifted the whole agenda for the weeks coming because our collective that Terrian and I are in a circle that channels it insisted that we start getting this word out, and Terrian's like, well, we do have our own show. Like, that's probably a good place to begin. But let's start by, before we get into that, I just thought we would talk a little bit about what these high-level councils and collectives are. Anybody want to start with that?
Well, maybe start with first that we're all mystic, so we're able to access those types of dimensions. And, you know, I think a lot of people are open to channeling. They just really don't understand what it is. And I think some of us really do it without even knowing what it is sometimes.
I know I did. And when she says all of us, she means all three of the Sedona Soul Sisters. We're mystics, which means that you access other dimensions, other times. It's not something, I don't try to do that. It just happens and has for a long time. And I know Roz has had that happen for a very long time too. And I think it's just, if you have the frequency of a mystic, then it's just going to occur. So if you have that ability, then you have the ability to connect with high-level councils as well. And I find most of the time they reach out to you if they feel your frequency is right for them, and or you are able or on your way to doing something they think is important and they want to help you, they reach out to you. That's been my experience. But what are they? They're beings from other dimensions. They're beings that are I think sometimes even beyond description. Some of those councils are from other planets. And I've never had one be angels. You know, to me, that's a whole different subject and a different frequency. But the collective thing is just the whole, it's sort of like a whole planet of people, or a whole big group of people speaking as one. I don't know, I'm sure you guys describe it in your words, because sometimes, you know, people just need to hear it in different words.
Go ahead, Ross.
I just feel like these are what I would describe, basically what you were talking about, as interdimensional beings. And so I never started out to have any communication with them or contact. I was an adult before I realized how many times they had come in, and it was always when I was very sick. And I've had a lot of, you know how intuitives and mystics are. We just have a lot of weird medical stuff. It's inexplainable, trust me. All of you know this. So it basically started when I was 10, and that was my first contact that I remember. And I had been diagnosed with, they couldn't figure out what was wrong, but finally I was diagnosed with something that was a really, really new and weird then. Nobody knew about it. Nobody knew how to treat it. And it was really funny because all the other things that they thought were wrong were fatal. So my parents were just losing it. And they tried everything that the doctor said, and I went to all these specialists and all this other stuff. The bottom line was, one night you know, I was bedridden basically for 90 days and couldn't go outside, couldn't see anybody, kind of like the COVID thing, actually. And all of a sudden, I woke up one night and here are these three beings. And first they were outside my window, and then suddenly they were, which is odd because I never had my curtains open at night. And then they were in my room and they never said anything. They just went like that. And I'm going, who are you? What do you want? And they were very much like your sort of standard picture of quote unquote ET. You know, they had very large heads relative to their body. They were tall and skinny and they had big, beautiful eyes. And that's all they did was smile. And within 2 weeks, I was well. And the doctors just were boggled, truly boggled. And so it's kind of been that way throughout. So I'm assuming, I mean, I don't really talk to them. They don't talk to me, but we seem to have a communication. And I'm just assuming that when they have something on their agenda for you and you've been sent here to do that, they're not going to let anything interfere.
Roz, I think your whole experience with all the people, including Terry Ann, who have been sent to you by a specific
Yes.
by council with the same message. Why don't you talk about that a little bit? Because that's pretty fascinating.
So starting about 3 years ago, I mean, I've always been what I consider to be like just a normal person who receives information, you know, typical quote unquote psychic, if there is a typical. And all of a sudden people started arriving in my office and they would say, I was sent here. You know, my guides told me to come. I was given your name. One woman arrived. She was driving across I-40. She had her phone and my picture and all my information had come up on it. And she was talking to her friend who was a psychic in Europe who said, no, you have to go see this woman. I don't know who she is. And boom, there I appeared on her phone. And all of these people came seeking I mean,
wasn't it the code?
It was a
Yeah.
code. It was like an activation.
Some of them actually said those words. I'm looking for I came here, I was told to come here and get the ascension code. I'm like, all righty then. I have no idea what you were talking about, but let's just sit down and we'll see what happens. And I mean, this was going on a lot. Some of them had, you know, issues that they were experiencing due to the awakening. Some, you know, but basically they just came in for a session and I said, I have no idea what I'm supposed to be giving you. And so, I mean, let's just sit here and we'll do some energy exchange and all that. And come to find out, that's what it was. Because I had people get back in touch with me and go, oh, you're the frequency. It's not anything you do.
You were the code.
You are the frequency that is the code. It's like, all righty then. So it's been very interesting for me. I do have these beings come in and out quite a bit now. Because the Soul Sisters are visible worldwide. I have had quite a few clients from other countries contact me, and it's interesting because before I ever start the session with them, the beings usually arrive. And sometimes it feels like there's hundreds of beings in my office. For those of you who haven't seen my office, it's about 10 by 10. So it gets, yeah.
It's a bit on the crowded side.
So, I mean, I just come to my office every day and say, okay, send me the people I need that need my help today, that I need to see today, that I need to do my work, and let me be of service. And I just kind of leave it like that because I don't know what's coming. I love that. I'm the psychic, but I don't know what's coming. But
yeah, just because you're psychic doesn't mean you know everything.
Yeah, and certainly not about ourselves a
And
lot
when
of
it's ourself, I was just going to say that it's a lot harder when it's ourself too. But I was one of those people that showed up on Roz's doorstep and was like, I don't know why I'm here. You're going to think I'm crazy. So I was one of those people as well.
Well,
And we're so glad they sent you to us.
the funny part about when you arrived, I mean, I was thinking, you know, when you came in, I just felt this instant sort of like frequency alignment, and I didn't realize that you had been specifically sent, and they were so specific with you, it was pretty mind-boggling.
Yeah, and I felt that connection to you instantly, and I was
Yeah.
like, there has got to be some past life stuff. And I think that plays, because I do a lot of past life work, it's my belief, and what they've shown me is that a lot of times the beings that are coming into you, it's also an agreement that we've set up, so that we have these thousands of lifetimes, right? But maybe not every lifetime we are doing the work that we're doing in this lifetime. So it can get kind of confusing, but in this lifetime, so if you've set up this agreement with these beings to come in now and to help the ascension of the planet and humanity, and those beings are going to come into you now and help connect with you and help you find your way and share what you need to share with humanity. So I think that also comes into play. I know for me, because I'm very feeling and I'm a healer, I feel them a lot. Like I feel this expansiveness in my heart, and Ivory and I have been in circle together, and you cry. The feeling of love, it's like when I connect with my son, the feeling of love that comes over me, that comes through my heart space. It's nothing that I've ever experienced before. And it can be very overwhelming. So you get this physical, this visceral effect that's going on as well. And I think that's what's so mind blowing to me in the beginning.
Well, I've had beings from other planets, interaction with them since I was about 3 years old. It really kicked into gear with the interdimensional beings in '84 when I had my biggest spiritual awakening, and it was just constant for years. They'd keep me up half the night, and all kinds of brilliant. I've written about this, like a ton of different beings, and they'd stay for a long time, and they were visiting my daughter, who's a psychic medium as well. And the whole thing was that when I moved into this house, I think is when it became more interesting with high level councils. And I know I told Roz, I think I probably told Tyrion too, that there was one night where I hadn't gone to sleep yet, and I realized there's 3 tall beings standing in my room between my bed and the bay window, and they were about 8 feet tall, and they looked like they were carved out of stone, and they had like a tall pointed carved hat and a long carved beard, and their arms were crossed in front of their body, and they didn't say anything, they didn't move, except I'm watching the one closest to me, and his folded hands open like this, and there's this glowing, bright, almost lime green stone looking thing, like faceted in his hands that he's holding out to me, and then they were gone. So I have no idea like who that was or what that was about, or it felt good, and I just watch these things. I would say hello. I've had the blue orb people come to me, which are like 6 foot diameter royal blue orbs that are kind of crystalline with like this beautiful opalescent center that's moving like this, and they feel really good. They'll just hover over my bed. They're not talking to me in a conscious way, so I imagine that they are communicating with me or downloading information to me I'm unaware of, but it's not like they're going, hello, Ivory, we're here to do XYZ. No, none of them have done that. So, I've had a circle at my house for a while now. It's part of the Afterlife Research Education Institute chapter here in Sedona. Is that I run that, and we've morphed into a mediumship group where we do channeling. And we have one night we were just here at my house doing our thing, and all of a sudden this presence entered that was so powerful. I'd never felt anything like it, and it just went around the whole circle and right to our heart chakras, and it was like having your heart chakra blasted wide open. All of us started to cry, which we didn't know because we're in a dark room. And we feel the synergy like so powerful in our body, and it was going around and around the circle, and we could feel it like our hands were joined, and so you could feel it going from one person to the next, and it was so beautiful. And like Terry Ann said, just like being completely washed and bathed in love and this high frequency, and we didn't know what was going on. It lasted quite a while. You know, it actually was quite a long time that energy was there. And later that night, you know, I did the cleansing afterwards, and I was laying on my sofa, sitting right where I'm at now, and I felt them coming again. And I said, "Who are you?" And I heard it's a voice that's very soft, but it's like there's many voices saying it. And I heard Nyandala, loud and clear, out loud, not in my head, Nyandala. But it was like 1,000 voices saying that at once. And as I say it, they're coming in right now, and I'm feeling it in my body right now. So because they're here, I want to be sure only Nyandala is coming in to share information with you, and as we talk about them. So just like we would do for one of our circles, I'm going to do that spiritual protection now to make sure only Nyandala is with us at this time. And I'll call in the archangels. By the grace of God, I invoke the protection of the archangels. Archangel Michael, I invoke you for protection and ask that you stand on our right side with your angel warrior energy. Archangel Uriel, I invoke you for protection and ask that you stand on our left side, transmuting negative energy into positive energy. Archangel Raphael, I invoke you for protection and ask that you stand before us with your healing angel energy. And Archangel Gabriel, I invoke you for protection and ask that you stand behind us and give us strength, great messenger of God. Michael to our right, Uriel to our left, Raphael before us, and Gabriel behind us. Beloved, I am presence bright. Round me seal your tube of light from ascended master flame, called forth now God's own name. Let it keep my temple free from all discord sent to me. I am calling forth violet fire to blaze and transmute all desire, keeping on in freedom's name till I am one with a violet flame. God, thank you for another opportunity to serve you in this body. I ask that you surround us in a golden bubble of your love and protection that is bathed in the divine white light of your Holy Spirit, sealing in our positive energies and good health, and sealing out all negative energies and those from the lower realms. And we send white light to the lower realms so that only peace and love may enter in. And so it is. Amen.
Amen.
This time I open the umbrella of energy above us, open that beautiful doorway to Nyandala between us, us all acting as a circle, and fully invite Nyandala to enter our circle at this time. And there they are. So what I feel when they come in is a rush of energy that goes down through my crown chakra, through my whole body, especially blasting through the heart chakra, but down through my entire body. And it's their high frequency is what we're feeling. It just bathes you in that extraordinary high frequency. Terry Ann, do you want to talk a little bit about your experience with them?
Yes. Sorry. It's pretty powerful. I mean, as you can see, it really, it brings me to this place that I've not experienced in this physical life. And it's overwhelming and it's beautiful. And the first time I was able to actually see, I saw them come into my bedroom as well. And they come in with this beautiful, it's almost like this, almost like Archangel Michael, this royal blue type of color. And a lot of times, oh, sorry, when I'm asleep at night or going to sleep, I see these flashes of blue lights in my bedroom. And so they're very present and they come in a lot of time for me. I feel like there is a lot of protection that's coming in for me because of what I'm experiencing right now. Um, but every time they come in like this, I have this overwhelming feeling of love in my heart. And I feel like it clears a lot of that physical denseness, that heaviness. When you talk about the three beings come in, and Roz said the three beings as well, I was also brought three beings. So there's the number three, which is very important, which is the Trinity. It's always been very important to me. And so things usually come in threes for me. But the color, the feeling, the love, the messages that I channel when they come through, it's all out of a non-judgmental space. It's very loving and uplifting. And I just know that there's such a high frequency. I think that's why we get so overwhelmed with it, with our physical bodies, because we can only house so much of that light within us as a physical 3D dense being. So I think it's very overwhelming for us sometimes. Do you agree?
Like I know that we have higher frequencies than a lot of people do, but not like that. So to be transported up, I don't even know what level they're vibrating on, but it's amazing. I'd love to live at that vibration. But it's interesting that for me, they started coming in a couple weeks ago and letting me see them. They came into my bedroom a couple times when I was reading, and then into the living room once. And they always come in as about an 8 foot, 9 foot tall, vaguely humanoid shape, but it's more like a tall gold beam. And they come in, it just goes, and there's Nyangela, and they're talking, and their energy frequencies there, and then it goes right back down. But what they were doing was, we weren't holding our circles because I've been so sick, and because of COVID, and they were saying you just can't wait any longer. You've got to reconvene, and all of us were getting the same message individually, and finally we contacted each other. We're like, we have to go ahead and start, and we'll sit 5 feet apart, and we'll not hold hands, and it works just fine. But they just were saying, and they were just saying a few minutes ago, they said there's no time to wait. They just said that. So I think we should talk a little bit about the things they've been saying in our circles. The first thing they wanted us to do was our circle, to help some other planet, and we did do what they asked us to do, which was sending healing energy and aiming it at this particular place, and they made sure that the healing energy went there, and then they've never mentioned that again. So whatever that was seems to be fine. But since then, it's been about our planet, and boy, they are coming in hard right now. This is about our planet, and they're very concerned about what's going on, and they want us to know we don't have to worry about the fact that things are rolling into chaos and feel like it's hopeless, like how's this ever going to get straightened out. They keep saying it's not just up to us. They realize we're not going to be able to do it on our own. They already realize that, and they're stepping in. It's already been done. So we are not out of the loop. I mean, we still have to do everything we can to try to ease the discord and get things straightened out. But there's a lot of things going on that they said. There's multiple collectives coming in from all across the galaxy and other dimensions that are specifically helping our planet get back on track better than we've ever been. So I find that personally very comforting, because I get panicky sometimes when I feel like things are not going in a positive direction. Did you want to add anything to that?
Wait, I didn't hear you say it again.
So did you want to add anything to that?
Oh yeah, so this morning I was just meditating on the show and Nyandala, and I could feel them come in. And this happens to me often, but I can almost like see through the dimensions. Like it becomes like if you were to like go cross-eyed and things were to become blurry, I start to see the opening of the dimensions, and they were there. And so I channeled some words from them this morning, but from what they're telling me too, there's this message of love and positivity, and we are going into the role more so now than ever, I think, is what they told me is the teacher. So we are sort of, as we're shifting our frequency and awareness and we're connecting with them, it's important for us to teach. And I think that's why they've been so adamant about us coming out and talking about them more, because I think there's a need. Um, when they came in previously, and it was funny that you said everybody in the group had gotten that message, because we all, when we came together, we were like, what, we have to do what? And they're like, oh, I got that message too. And so there is an importance now. And I think as we're going to the end of this year of 2020, it's just going to get more chaotic. But what I could actually see this morning, going back to that, was the shifting, the dimensions opening. And I could actually see like blips of ships. So they're out there. And you're able to see them if you open your mind. And I think it's about bringing this awareness to people too.
I know one thing they showed me at our last circle was about 7 big ships out in space coming in from different directions, and they all looked vastly different, lining up side by side, and they were all facing our planet. And that was when they were talking about all these different collectives and interdimensional units that are helping the planet at this very important juncture for us, that we are at the brink where we can break through a dense, lower energy into a higher frequency. And they said it's always chaotic. And we've talked about that, the Sedona Soul Sisters, we've talked about it, that we can feel this chaos that has to happen before a major change. And it requires vast change. Is always makes people get afraid. People resist that. They don't like it. We want things to be the same because that's comfortable. It's our norm. It's what we're used to. But they've been telling me, and they said it again yesterday, was that expect another 3 to 4 months of increasing discord before things begin to calm down. But to understand that we're not all on our own. They've repeated that over and over. They want humanity to know we're not all on our own, and that they are really working hard to try to send love into our hearts and peace and calm the discord and help us focus more on what we have in common rather than what our differences are. I find it very helpful to know that, because it's one thing to be a psychic medium and another thing to be a human. And as a human, I find all this very disturbing.
I think too, we have to acknowledge that, again, as Terry Ann says, this requires us to work. I mean, we have to keep our frequency, our consciousness in a state of facilitating change, being open to doing, living our purpose, whatever we came here for in this bigger plan, and being realistic that we can't drop the ball. I mean, we can't just think, oh, they're going to come in, they're going to do it. No, that's not what's happening. What's happening here is that we have to work constantly to overcome that human side, where we're looking at things and going, oh my gosh, this is, this can't be happening. We can't go there. We can't allow ourselves to go there.
When we feel ourselves being pulled into strong emotional feelings, that's a good wake-up call to go, I need to step back. I need to take a step back from the emotions and look at this more dispassionately. And one thing they keep saying is, as they said this morning, like, we're running out of time. So those of us who are watching the show now, if you're watching it later on our YouTube channel, I don't know what that is.
Got a static something.
I've never heard that before here.
Staticky going on. Yeah, we haven't experienced this before, but I don't know what's going on with the internet right now either, because
I'm having a lot of tech things and
crazy stuff.
It might be my energy. It's important because time is running out. So those of us who are awakened, those of us who are waking up, those of you who are already actively working to raise your frequency, work harder, and know that every person that you come in contact with is benefiting from that, and you are lifting their frequency by being around them. It's not just for you that you do this, but the people who are not yet on a spiritual path, they don't know about frequency, they're not ready to hear about it or work on it, you are helping to lift those people up as well, which helps everyone. I am not going to get right down in politics and things like that. I'm trying to think about mankind as a whole. And mankind as a whole needs to raise its frequency tremendously to get out of this mess we're in. So, that's something that they're telling us regularly. And I know for me, Terry Ann, I think it's true for you and for Julia, we're the mediums for our circle, is that they're coming in daily. That didn't used to be true, but they're coming in daily. If I even think of them or say their name, boom, they're there. And sometimes even I'm not thinking about them. Like I said, I'm reading a book or just, going about my day, and boom, Nyandala's here. And I welcome that. I'm glad they're here right now. I'm glad that they're here with us, but they want people to know about this. They want, and Nyandala is not the only collective. Again, we're not saying we're some amazing people who have this message for the world. There's a whole bunch of collectives that work here. There's a whole bunch of high-level councils, which is basically same thing, just different wording. But there's a whole lot of that going on, and there's different circles channeling these collectives and councils. They're all doing the same thing. So there's no right, there's no wrong. It's just a different collective or a different circle.
I think it's important for people to realize too, if you're seeing these things or you're hearing or you're experiencing things and you think that you're crazy, you're not crazy. You got to get your head out of the box of our culture and our world culture, which has created this sort of idea that we have that, like, okay, well, we're on this little rock and this is it, this is planet Earth, and this is nothing could be further from the truth except the part about the little rock. We're this tiny, tiny little speck in this huge, almost unimaginable universe and multiverse. It's not just a universe, of planets and things aligning. It's a multiverse of multiple dimensional fields. And there are beings and entities and these councils. I'm not even assuming there's only one council. I feel like these are large, multi-dimensional, and people use that word, but basically what it means is what you were talking about earlier with the connection to being able to mystic into these other fields. This is so gigantic and so unimaginably powerful that, we as humans are really limited.
I think we can't conceptualize, right? We're born into this body and we have these blinders, and they keep us like in this little box in our little space. And as we awaken, we begin to shift and open it, almost like that lotus flower that grows in the mud. It's this beautiful thing that happens. You begin to awaken and you begin to see other things around you. And yes, you think you're crazy, but you're not crazy. It's like, this is happening, and it's happening to a lot more people right now. A lot more people that we're seeing have begun to awaken, and they say the same things. Like, I think I'm losing my mind. I'm hearing, I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, just to embrace the idea that, hey, you're not crazy. This is what's real. All of this other stuff is like the Matrix thing, the movie or whatever it is. It's a little kind of like just tiny little hologram. But what's really going on is so gigantic.
And that's another thing I wanted to say, is that we as humans need to expand our vision of what is life. Because in some other dimensions and other planets, life is light forms. They're not going to look like us. I mean, I think there are some, I've met some that look a lot like us or just like us, but for the most part, they're more of light bodies. They're a certain shape, but they're made of light. They don't need what we need to survive. And, you know, we're not the same kind of being, and that's okay. But to say there's no life on that planet, you know, we don't know that. We don't know that because they're looking for humans type people, you know, and that's kind of silly because they're not on Earth.
It's
So
amazing. It's really amazing. If you just let your mind embrace it, let your heart, you know, go into that unconditional love of, you know, all these other systems and frequencies and everything that's going on. Now, that's not to say that there aren't bad guys. And I do want to bring that up because, you know, a lot of people believe that, you know, there is no such thing as that. But there most assuredly, the frequency of negative intention towards any other living thing, that's pretty dark. So we have to look at these things realistically. And I really believe that the beings that we are interfacing with, who come in a light form, or they come in as a presentation of a physical body, but some of the beings that I have seen over these years, I mean, they're transparent. They are a light form. They're a frequency. So, got to really allow that
in
to.
our last circle, I just had a flash. I was trying to remember. Sorry, I still have some foggy brain going, but at our last circle, there's two things Nyandala made very clear. One is that they want us to talk about them and share their messages with the world every way we can. So we're working on that. And the other thing is that they want our circle to be much larger. They want us to be in large groups to enhance the ability of the group to channel in a more powerful way, to bring through more of Nyandala's energy and ability to help us in a more powerful, fast way. So we are looking for people who are very high frequency, people who've been working to raise their frequency for a long time, who are thinking about what's best for mankind, putting themselves in a place of love and healing. Contact, you know, email us and let us know you're interested. You do not have to be with us in person to be a part of the circle. It doesn't matter. We've experimented through COVID. We met first on the front porch of my house with traffic going by and, you know, people walking by, and we couldn't hold hands, and they came through powerful. It doesn't matter. We don't have to be in the same place. Just like when you have a mediumship reading, sometimes it's better if you're not there in person. It will not hurt anything. They have higher capabilities than we can understand. So we're just letting you know we're looking for other people to join us, and we may start meeting more often than once a month because they're so adamant that time is running out. So, you know, I'm willing to make that a higher priority.
I think it's important to reiterate what you just said from the standpoint too of, like anything that you deal with that's outside of the physical realm, and in your case you were mentioning a mediumship reading, your thoughts are going to have a tremendous amount of control about what you experience and what you see. So if you go into a session with any of this type of experience, the expectation of that, and you're comfortable in that expectation to allow these things to come in, it's gonna manifest itself, as opposed to if you go into it with the underlying expectation, well, I don't know about this, I don't believe. Your skepticism has an energy. Your inability to have the intention of connecting with these higher beings and, you know, facilitating this connection to result in some huge shifts in consciousness.
Yeah.
Gotta roll with it, and you gotta be open to that.
Yeah,
I mean,
and the
how many
intention
times,
behind it, right?
yeah, and
Mhm.
and how many times have you had people, I just had it happen. People come in for a mediumship reading and they really don't believe that can happen. And so it it doesn't flow and it doesn't happen the way it could. I mean, it's really powerful how much power we have, our words and thoughts.
And I'm just
Yeah.
going to say, in no way am I being mean or judging people, but I have to be very vigilant. We all do for our circle. If somebody presents and they're interested in being in it, but we can feel that your frequency is not quite there, we're going to ask you to do some specific things to try to get your frequency a little higher, because our circle is affected negatively if everybody's not high frequency. We've had to really do some work with that. And anybody who wants to do it, you can get your frequency up, but it might take a little bit of time. And then we'd love to take another look at you for the circle. So just be aware that we do have to do that, or it won't, they can't come through. It'll just block them from coming through. Actually, we had some people in our circle who are wonderful, lovely people, great intentions, but their frequency wasn't high enough. And when Mandala came through, I felt like I was going to die. Like I felt like I was having a heart attack and I couldn't breathe, and it was so painful, and I was floored and I was sick for days. So something happened with them trying to come in when the frequency is not right in our circle. So I'm just letting you know ahead of time that you may be asked to do some work on your frequency to get you up there, and then we'll bring you right in.
And that's great because, everybody should, as Roz said earlier, we should all be working on our frequency. We should be doing our best all the time. And it is a daily, there are days that we get up to and we're like, oh my God, I don't want to do this, but we have to then, to do the work that we do, step into that space. Otherwise we will get sick. And, when you connect with these higher council energies, you feel almost like, invigorated. It's not draining for you. So when you are feeling something that's draining, you should also be aware. It could be the energy of who you're around, what you're working with. Pay attention to how you feel too afterwards when you're doing channeling, or when you're first beginning to learn about channeling, because that's a telltale of who you're dealing with.
And it's not there's all kinds of circles out there. There's beginning circles if you're new to this, but oh, thank you, Kathy. She said she's interested and wants to help. Thank you. We would love that. We can use it, and we'll get in touch with you about when the next one is and how you can participate with that. Zoom can be helpful for that too. I'm trying to think, is there any messages we've left out from them right now? I'm sorry, my brain is not as good as usual. Just checking the notes, checking slides. I feel like there's something else. I should have brought my journal in here because I write all this stuff down in my journal. My spiritual journal, my weird occurrences journal.
The only other thing I can think of that I feel would be helpful for people is to realize that when you start to approach this, part of the elevation of frequency is getting yourself into a place of no judgment and unconditional love. Really, we can't be in a higher frequency if we're not working on our basic human side, which we're judgmental, we can be negative, we can be, we're not perfect, we're humans. So I think realizing what is required on our end is really important, and to work towards that loving desire to help and do good works.
Absolutely. As long as we focus on that, that is sending love and peace energy out into the world too. The last thing you want to do is add to hatred or anger or
Judgment. Oh,
fear and distrust. There's plenty of negative energy going on in our world right now. If you get in those spaces, you're adding to that fear, negative, hatred energy. And that's what we're trying to combat by just not letting ourselves go there, by vigilantly pulling ourselves out. And I appreciate Neandela coming through and just reminding us regularly of how important this is. Like, keep your focus on what's truly the issue here. The planet's going through a major evolutionary vibration change. You are progressing at a huge level quickly. That's what's going on here. The other stuff, that's symptoms. But the issue is we're going through a huge, big evolution as a planet, as a species on this planet. So keep your focus on that, and it'll help you keep your balance too. And just a reminder, I don't think anybody out there can over ground or balance yourself. If I don't do my grounding pad every day, I start feeling like a mess.
Me too. And I just got the grounding mat for my bed, and I can tell you, just laying my feet and my ankles on that when I'm going to sleep at night, I feel so much more in my body. It's so unbelievable to me, just by having that mat on my bed, how much more rested I feel when I wake up.
and interestingly, I mean, the things that I notice in addition to that, and I can get out there, way out there. So that's really helpful. But the other thing I noticed is, I mean, you know, I just have so many little achy, painy physical distractions a lot of times, and it really neutralizes all of that. I mean, it's just amazing how you can really put put yourself in a frequency of just total calmness when you've not got your hip hurting and your ankle hurting, all of the old injury stuff and everything. So it's pretty amazing how it works.
It helps me on an emotional level more than anything, like just feeling like I'm going to be okay, things are going to be okay, which I think we all need to feel some of that, because there's a whole lot of fear mongering going on that makes people feel exactly the opposite of that. So it was so funny, not ha funny, but I had COVID and I'm still having a lot of problems with that. So I think Roz and Terry Ann reminded me, they're like, are you using your grounding pad? I'm like, no. I felt so horrible, I didn't even think of using my grounding pad. You know how when you're sick, you don't think of what you can do to take care of yourself? I was there. So we can all be there emotionally right now with the chaos. So you might not be thinking of it. So if you can put your feet on grass or soil for 30 minutes a day while the weather's still good, that's perfectly fine. I don't have that. I live in a gravel neighborhood. So the grounding pad, I just put it on the floor while I'm doing my work at my desk for at least 30 minutes a day. Sometimes I put it on my sofa and lay on it when I watch a movie. I can't sleep on it because I feel the frequency, the vibe, the buzzing of it, that I can feel it in my body, and it keeps me up. It's like too stimulating for me. But
Oils also work good. I use a lot of cedar wood to ground. I put it on my feet before I go to bed. That'll work.
good idea. There's a lot you can do. If you don't have a grounding pad, you can do salt baths. If you're like me, I'm 6 feet tall. Some of you don't know that. You can't tell sitting down, but I'm 6 feet tall. So my bathtub, I can either choose to have my legs in it or my torso, but not both at once. So I just do foot baths with salt. I have a big bucket and I do foot baths just like people would do, and it helps. It's not as good as Roz's boyfriend Ed's detox foot baths, because that's the ultimate for me for getting the toxins out and just feeling so much better quicker. But salt bath of any kind is something else you can do, and all of these will help you. Once you detox yourself, you can start really moving your frequency higher. It's hard to do until you do detox. And detoxing can be from emotions as well, not just yours, but those around you and around the world.
Good point.
Absolutely.
Anything else anybody wants to add about all this? No?
Just keep your frequency up. Do your work.
Well, thank you for watching the Sedona Soul Sisters show. If you'd like more information about us or our services, we invite you to visit our website, sedonasoulsisters.com. Tune in next week. The topic is Trust in the Truth That Lies Within Us. And it's about following your own internal guidance, which is a huge issue and something very important to learn to tap into. We'll be back next Friday at noon Arizona time, which still is Pacific time at this time. And we hope that you have an enlightening week.
Bye.